Hey, Brian Wicker with Scrubs Unite here. Figured I'd go ahead and bring you an updated Zefra profile post-Extreme Force. I still don't have the Electromite yet, so at the moment I'm still running this as kind of a Zefra stun build. It works pretty well against a couple of the meta matchups that I've had against it, and I've even tried it against some Rogue, and it really does work. It stalls your opponent pretty well, and it has a couple good power plays in it. And the combos that you can get with this are actually just rather insane if you get a decent setup first. So we'll go ahead and get this started off. We got the triple Zefra. I like having him for my 1 scale. You hate having him for your 7 scale, because if you have to put him for your 7 scale, you have limited resources. Meanwhile, Zefra in the 1 scale, plus Zefra being, Zefraxi being in the deck, makes for pretty much infinite pendulum summons off of that little mini engine. 3 Zefra for your searcher, kind of standard. 3 Zefraxi. People say you only need to run 2. A man who placed at a regional, I think he got 1st or 2nd at a regional or a UDS, only ran 2 of these. I feel like when you're running the stun variant, you need 3 because you'll sometimes end up banishing it off Divine Strike. 2 Zefra Windy for hand recursion, because you want to be able to pin summon more monsters out than necessary, because overkill is always good. 2 Zefra Pilica. You can pitch a couple cards in this engine off of Armageddon Knight, not just Destrudo, and Zefra Pilica lets you access those resources kind of easier. It's sort of like making a mini Destrudo engine out of all of your darks. 1 Zefra Thuban, 1 Zefraxiton, 1 Zefra Naga, and 1 Zefra Core. Outside of the Zefras, we have the Armageddon Knight engine, and we also run 1 Zefrios the Elite, because you can dump Zefrios the Elite with Armageddon Knight, and then you can bounce back and get Zefrios out, overland to Baguska to stall for a turn, and then next turn, if Baguska dies, you can go Armageddon Knight, pitch Destrudo, and go into your engine. It's a good stall tactic. Going into the spells, we have the 3 Zefra Providence, 3 Oracle of Zefra, 1 Rhoda, 1 Reborn, and 1 Raigeki. Monster Reborn works really well in this deck, considering this is pretty much just a synchro toolbox. And it works as a good extra play extender, because you can go Yazi, and on the turn after you go Yazi, pop for your combos. If you have the Reborn, you can just Reborn Yazi, pop something, get another Zefra out, and extend your plays from there. Into the traps, you run the 3/9 Pillar, 2 Divine Strike, 1 War. I've been thinking of going up to 2 War, but I really don't know what to do with it, even though it's a hand trap. And then we have a mini Solemn package. That covers up pretty much the main deck. Going into your sideboard, you run the 1 Metaphys Horse and the 1 Charge Warrior, because it's a good search by itself. 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, so you can repeat your Oracle next turn in case you don't draw into it and you want more consistency. Plus the extra monster is always a good benefit. 1 Black Rose, 1 Clear Rain, and the 1 Yazi. I've been thinking of going up to 2 Yazi, maybe taking out Ancient Fairy. For the 8s, we run the 1 Omega. 9s, you run the Chao Fang Trishula. Into the Xyz lineup, you have the 1 Leviair, the Sea Dragon. Leviair pretty much just lets you get back what you banish off Divine Strike, or what your opponent banishes off of any of their extra plays, because being able to steal their Mizuki and overlay for Baguska with it, or having that extra card just to be able to link summon with it in general, is a really good setup. 1 Baguska for extra stall. Going into the links, you run the 1 copy of Isolde. It's pretty much the 2nd Rhoda in the deck, and the arrows are always a good bonus. 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Decode Talker, 1 Zefra Metaltron. People used to talk bad about this card, say it was a disappointment. It's essentially a Psyframe Lord Zeta with also a monster recursion factor that lets you add stuff back to your hand. So I really do like the concept of it, because it's always got that recursion factor. I can remove problem cards off the field. It's not a quick effect, though. That's kind of the only problem that I have with it. If it was a quick effect, you'd see a lot more people running it on a standard basis. Going into the side deck, we're running kind of a semi, I guess you can say, kind of a budget option here. The 2 draw unlocks, the 2 Eater of Millions, because you can afford to banish stuff from your extra deck, because you do run 2 and 3 ofs for some cards in here. Plus you can banish the extra deck monsters that you really have no use for. And it's an instant problem remover for stuff like a Spell Trap Immune Masterpiece. 2 Sphere Mode, because break my board, okay. 3 Mistaken Accusations, because Mistaken Accusation works well against True Draco. It pretty much makes it to where they can only have 1 Heritage in a duel, or, you know, 1 Apocalypse, or 1 Disciples, 1 Majesty Maiden. You know, you get the gist. You can hit ABC Dragon Buster with this, and it'll make it to where they've only got the 1 Dragon Buster, and that's end of story for it. It pretty much just locks down 3 of decks. 1 Necro Valley for the extra side deck option, because you can side out the Destrudo engine and side in a bunch more stun cards like Floodgates, and it really doesn't hurt the consistency at all, because the Floodgates are going to be holding back your opponent from gaining any advantage. 2 anti-spells, because, well, I know it's a pendulum deck, but you can play off your combos, get your big board set up, and then go anti-spell on your opponent's draw phase, and you pretty much get a free turn against Pendulum Magician. And triple Light Force Sword, because it's essentially 3 more Omegas, and they're chainable. So, I'll let them activate something like a Raigeki, which would wipe my board, and as many Light Force Swords as I have face down, I'll just chain as many of them as I can, and I'll just start ripping cards from their hand and affecting their plays. Sometimes I'll hit their hard once per turns, and sometimes I'll hit their searchers, and that's something that they can't handle for losing a lot of, especially if you're playing still like the Remnants of Spiral. You can hit the Masterpiece off of this, and it makes it difficult, because now they have to dedicate searchers to getting that Masterpiece back. You can hit their A Assault Cores, or even their Union Hangers or Terraformings, and that will disrupt their plays, because if they don't have access to those, it makes it more difficult for them to have those plays. It's I made a video on this a long time ago and took it back down, but Simo kind of fired shots saying that some people say a troll is the person who thinks that Light Force Sword is a valuable card for hand destruction. It really is, because it gives me 4 turns to wreck your shit. Meanwhile, Cyframe Lord Omega gives me 1 turn of, okay, hand knowledge, hand knowledge, hand knowledge, because I'm hitting 1 card at random. I can hit the same card 3 or 4 times, or I can just remove the same card for 4 turns. I think I'll take that and not have to worry about losing a monster on the field for it. Because Cyframe Lord Omega, to me, is essentially going -3 in card advantage, or at least -2. Because you're paying out 2 for a Synchro Summon, then you're banishing Omega. So you're losing 2 cards there just to rip 1 out of your opponent's hand. Well, 3 cards to rip 1 from your opponent's hand. And it's only going away for a turn, but so is Omega. So it's still, in general, a -2 concept. People will argue that my extra deck toolbox says the same thing. You know, it's -2, -3 engine. You can get more valuable plays off of a Yazi, because you'll go -2 to summon the Yazi. Pop 1, including pop himself, and pop something else, so you're still going -2. Search for Zefra, so it's a -1. Now go for search for Providence, break even. So you're breaking even on that play, and you may even get more than that depending on how you continue your plays out, and be possibly +2, +3 for the turn. But that's the deck profile. Wanted to give a shout out to the guys up at the shop, Scrubs Unite. Wanted to thank my girlfriend here for helping me out with making the video, because everybody knows I'm absolutely horrible at holding things with one hand. But that's the deck profile. Take it easy, YouTube. Later.